In May of 1986, two 12-year-old boys in Singapore left home for the school in the middle of the day. It was not the middle of the night. It was not some isolated road. It was not wilderness or a war zone or some place where people simply vanish. It was a normal school day, a familiar route, a crowded city, and yet somehow two boys, best friends, classmates, children, disappeared so completely that decades later nobody can say for certain what happened to them. They remain one of Singapore's most haunting, unsolved missing persons cases. That is what makes this story so hard to sit with. Because in many disappearances, there is at least a clear last image, a final sighting that feels dramatic, a clear point where danger enters the frame. But in this case, danger never announces itself. Two boys just fail to arrive. And from that ordinary absence, an entire national mystery begins. This is the story of Kay Chin An and To Hong Huat, the boys who never made it to school. On the 14th of May 1986, both boys were 12 years old, and both were primary 6 students at Owen Primary School in Singapore. They were close friends and classmates. Public summaries of that case say they disappeared in the early afternoon before their 12:55 p.m. class. That detail matters because this was not a runaway story involving teenagers on the edge of adulthood. These were children, old enough to walk around a familiar neighborhood, young enough that school, home, and routine still define most of their world, which is why their disappearance hit so hard. The age, the daylight, the simplicity of the route, everything about it made the case feel wrong from the very beginning. What is so unsettling is that the day does not begin with chaos. It begins with a routine. One boy heading to school, one friend joining him, a familiar path, an ordinary afternoon. According to public accounts, Kay Chin An reached Owen Primary School first. A classmate, Wang Paiwei, was reportedly last known person to see him. Chin An apparently wanted to go to nearby shops outside the school to buy something, so Paiwei offered to help by looking after his school bag. Paiwei left the bag on the bench near the school tuck stop, expecting Chin An to return and collect it. He never did. That abandoned school bag is one of the details that gives this case its shape. Because a child who plans to disappear does not usually leave the bag waiting at school as if he will be right back. That bag suggests interruption, a temporary errand, a few minutes away. That kind of tiny decision children make all the time without imagining it could become the dividing line between before and after. Meanwhile, To Hong Huat was last seen by his mother at home. Public accounts say he told her he was going to school with his friend Chin An, who had come to fetch him. His mother later said it was unusual for Hong Huat to go off so casually on his own, because he was very timid generally and often liked her company in public. That was the last time she saw him. This is another one of those heartbreaking details, because parents remember normal things with frightening precision after a child goes missing. A sentence at the doorway, a glance, a tone of voice, a casual goodbye that, in the moment, feels too small to hold on to. And then years later, it becomes sacred because it was the last one. The critical time frame is the case is brutally short. Both boys were expected to be in class at 12:55 p.m. Public case summaries say they were never seen again after 12:30 p.m. That means whatever happened likely unfolded in that narrow window between leaving for school and the beginning of the afternoon session. That narrow window is what makes the mystery feel so severe, because it implies the disappearance did not happen after hours of wandering, not after a long unsupervised stretch, or some dramatic sequence of events across the city. It happened fast enough. By the time adults realized the boys had not shown up, the trail may already have gone cold. And once you understand that, the whole case becomes even more disturbing. Two boys on foot in broad daylight vanished between home and school. No confirmed public sighting after that. No explanation that holds. Just a gap in the day that never closes. At first, the disappearance may have felt like the kind of school day confusion that sorts itself out. Maybe one boy got delayed, maybe they took a detour, maybe there had been some misunderstanding. But when class began and neither child appeared, concern quickly escalated. Families reported them missing and police began investigating. Thousands of missing persons posters were later distributed across Singapore, and the case received extensive media attention. By May of '88, public reporting said police had interviewed more than 100 people. There is something uniquely awful about a missing child case that starts in daylight, because people instinctively think daylight protects. Crowds protect, routine protects, and school routes. And when none of those things prevent two children from disappearing, it sends a deeper kind of fear through the public. Not just what happened, but if this can happen here, then where is safe? As the day turned into weeks, the search widened. Police circulated posters and appeals. The media kept the story alive. Families searched, waited, and hoped. And yet no confirmed trace of the boys emerged. Public accounts say the investigation later stretched beyond Singapore, with alerts and information extended to Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and through Interpol channels. but still nothing conclusive surfaced. That is one of the most punishing parts of a case like this, the lack of resistance from reality. Normally when someone disappears, something eventually catches. A witness, a body, a piece of clothing, a rumor that becomes a lead, a false story that breaks. Here the case kept widening and widening without tightening around any answer, which is how a disappearance can become a legend. Then, one of the biggest developments in the case. On the 27th of August, 1986, an anonymous informant told police that the missing boys had been seen in Pulau Ubin, an island northeast of mainland Singapore. The lead was serious enough that Criminal Investigation Department sent nearly 100 officers to search the island. Public accounts say they split into 24 sections and smaller teams to search throughout Pulau Ubin. The boys' families also joined the effort. However, nothing was found. This is such a classic cold case moment, a huge lead, a place, a renewed pulse of hope. You could almost feel what that must have done to the families. For a brief time, the case becomes active again. Maybe this is it. Maybe someone really saw them. Maybe they are alive. Maybe this nightmare finally has a door out of it. And then the search ends with nothing. No boys, no clear evidence, no resolution. Just another place added to the map of grief. As months passed, the case drew even more public attention. In October of '86, McDonald's Singapore offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the boys' whereabouts. That reward was so prominent that the case became widely known as the McDonald's boys case. That detail sticks in people's memory because it is so unusual. A global fast food brand tying itself to a missing child case. A huge reward. A nickname that sounds almost too ordinary for the horror underneath it. The McDonald's boys. It sounds simple, almost harmless, until you remember that underneath the name are two children who walked towards school and never came back. And that reward tells you something else. This was not a quiet local mystery. This was a disappearance that gripped the country hard enough that the search became part of public life. Because the case remains unsolved, the theories matter, but they have to be handled carefully. There is no definitive public answer, only possibilities. And in a case with no clear ending, possibilities can feel both necessary and dangerous. Theory 1. Abduction. This is the theory many people instinctively land on, and for obvious reasons. Two boys disappeared together in a short window, in daylight, before making it to class. That could point to some kind of luring or coercion by an adult or older youth. The narrow time frame supports the possibility that whatever happened was swift and decisive, but no publicly identified abductor has ever been charged, and no conclusive evidence in the public record proves that scenario. Theory 2. The boys ran away. This possibility was part of the public discussion over the years, because in many missing child cases, authorities have to ask, and at least consider, whether the children left willingly. But this theory has always run into hard emotional and practical problems. They were young, only 12 years old. Chin An's school bag was left as if he intended to return, and the boys vanished without a confirmed trail or later a reappearance. None of that rules out a voluntary departure, but it makes the theory feel incomplete to many observers. Theory 3. Because the search later expanded to neighboring countries and involved Interpol channels, some have speculated if they were abducted, they may have been moved quickly beyond Singapore. This theory persists partly because the case produced no known body, no confirmed sightings that held, and no resolution within the city where they vanished. But again, that remains speculation. There's no public proof establishing what route, if any, the boys were taken on. Theory 4. Something happened in a very small space. This may have been the most disturbing theory of all because it requires the least drama. No grand conspiracy, not an international trafficking ring, just one wrong moment, one encounter, one vehicle, one small window where the two children stepped slightly out of ordinary path and disappeared into someone else's control. The years did not solve the case. They only changed its texture. Age-progressed images of the boys were released later, including in 1988 and 1994, as hope gradually shifted from immediate rescue to a much colder possibility that they may somehow still be alive as older teenagers or adults. But even with those efforts, no confirmed trace emerged. That is one of the saddest transformations in any missing child case. At first, you are looking for children. Then time forces you to imagine faces aging forward. A schoolboy becomes a teenager. A teenager becomes a man. A mother trying to picture what her child might look like if he is still somewhere in the world, growing older without her. Public accounts also describe the deep emotional toll on the families. Chin An's parents and sister reportedly struggled for years with grief and uncertainty. Reporting later described lasting depression in the family and the long shadow cast by his disappearance. And that is the cruelest part of an unsolved disappearance. There is no funeral that feels complete, no trial, no ending, just a suspended state where hope and dread never fully cancel each other out. As reflected in the public case summaries and coverage, Kay Chin An and To Hong Huat have never been found. Their disappearance remains unsolved, and is still remembered as one of Singapore's most enduring mysteries. And what lingers is not just the fact that they were gone, it is how little the world seemed to need to change for them to disappear. No storm, no national crisis, no obvious chaos. just an ordinary school day, broken in half. There are some cases that haunt people because they are violent, some because they are bizarre, and some because they happen in exact places where life is supposed to be the most predictable. This is one of those cases. Two boys, one school, one afternoon, one route that they have walked 100 times without fear. And somewhere between home, school, and a few missing minutes, they were taken out of the story. Maybe someone lured them. Maybe they trusted the wrong person. Maybe they stepped into a moment that looked harmless until it was too late. But whatever happened on the 14th of May, 1986, two families said goodbye to their sons as if the day would be ordinary. And the day never gave them back. And that may be the most haunting part of it all. For Kei Chin An and To Hong Huat, the last known stretch of life was not some dark alley or distant wilderness. It was a walk to school.